Good morning, everyone. So today we group four will be doing the strategic analysis of automobile industry of India, and the two major companies we have chosen are Mahindra and Mahindra and Tata Motors. So going about the industry overview, the Indian auto sector has become the fourth largest auto market in the world after displacing Germany in 2019, and it is also expected to displace Japan by 2021. Within the segment, the two-wheeler segment dominates the market with 81% composition. Indian auto sector is also the prominent exporter and has a lot of export potential for the future, and also the government initiatives are expected to make this sector grow in future with the various government initiatives like the setting up of incubation centers for startups, providing tax deductions for interest or paid on loan taken for electric vehicles and etc.
Next slide. I'd like to start with the political factors. The two most important political factors to be considered here are taxation and tariffs. The GST has always been a point of conflict among the industry and the government. The total tax and the combining cess with it goes up to around 50%. It makes automobiles unnecessarily expensive and stifles innovation and prevents consumers from buying better quality vehicles. The policy of high tariffs has not done India any favors. It has also caused a lot of low productivity and high prices, making imported goods near unaffordable due to the import tariffs being about 60 to 125%. Next slide, please. Economic factors to be considered here are the GDP, interest rates, and inflation. GDP has a direct relation with automobile production and sales. The auto sector has been in a slump since 2019. With the economy growing at a snail's pace and COVID-19 has delivered the final blow here, we can see in the data that the year-on-year growth the year-on-year drop has been very significant in the first quarter. Our interest rates have also led to a drop in interest rates has also led to cars being more affordable, but this is also due to pent-up demands and the loans can easily go back. Hence, this point cannot be considered to be the core point here. Next slide. Social factors include mobility, telecommuting, and second hands. Personal mobility has increased with the country going more and more urbanized. Telecommuting, the work from home trend has started due to the pandemic, and as a result, it has affected the automobile sector. With digitization and consumer-to-consumer sales in the used car segment, procuring used cars has become more mainstream. Next. Next, please. Technological factors include automation, comfort, and safety. Self-driving car tech is nascent and it has not yet come on the roads. Predictive automobile technology helps to make your journey more comfortable. Biometric seat technology and automatic lift gates make use of sensors and bodily data information which it takes directly from your body to enhance driver comfort and safety. The advanced driver assistance system helps detect objects such as pedestrians and avoids collisions. Next slide, please. Legal factors to be considered here. The most important legal factor is that the BS6 norms have now finally been implemented by the government, and it has been ratified with the Supreme Court verdict. This has led to only BS6 vehicles being sold from April 2020 this year. Labor laws reforms have always been in talks, but this year they have been finally codified in the terms of wages, industrial relations, social security and welfare, and working conditions. Intellectual property rights have been strengthened, and as a result, there won't be any plagiarism, neither would be there any counterfeiting, which would lead to poor quality vehicles and lack of safety standards. Next slide, please. Environmental factors. An improved awareness of environmental sustainability has been the focus here. The government has been trying to bring the local standards up to global standards. Emission standards have to be reduced. There has been a shift towards electric vehicles, hybrid electric vehicles, and fuel cell electric vehicles, and they will soon become mainstream in India. Auto recycling has also seen a big jump from 75% to 90% recycling rate for vehicles, thus leading to proper utilization of scrap metal and helping the consumer get a greater percentage of his money back. With this, the question analysis is now concluded.
So moving on to the key business metrics, we have identified four key business metrics that the auto industry tracks to keep their performance. First one is this number of units sold in the industry. So this graph represents the segment-wise units sold in the past 10 years. And we can see the two-wheeler segment dominates the market in terms of number of units sold. Second matrix is the capacity installed within the industry. So within this, the graph represents two and three wheeler segment dominates the total capacity, and subsequently followed by the four wheeler segment and then the engines. Next key business metric is the operating margin, which is the representative of overall productivity of the industry. And we can see that the commercial vehicles are not so productive, and even their operating margin went to negative is expected to go negative in the upcoming fiscal year. Last one is the revenue realization per unit. It is the average selling price that is realized after selling the unit. And within this also the cars and utility vehicles dominates with their average realization per unit, and they are constantly being increased over the past few years.
Talking about the corporate strategy, as we know that an innovation born out of necessity actually became a long-term demand and competitive advantage for an organization. Now, during the oil crisis in 1973, Mahindra had two companies. The auto company that was suffering from the low mileage of Hurricane petrol engine, and the tractor company which was suffering due to regulatory requirements and price controls. Both the companies were in utter crisis. At that point of time, the refining of the engine from the Mahindra innovation team came up. They had shifted from its World War II era petrol guzzler Hurricane engine to a more pneumatic diesel engine. From there and then all the revenue and the sales of both and both the tractor company and the auto company shooted up like anything. Its most prestigious model, that is Jeep, has also been there is some innovations also done in its refining of engines, and because of which the earlier selling has shoot up to double figures of 14,000 Jeeps. Talking about the new product development, the innovation in here came also very strongly. Mahindra has launched SUV Scorpio in 2002, and everyone knows how much a demand in a Scorpio has. Then they have upgraded the Scorpio to a new variant XUV 500 in 2011. Both vehicles were an instant success as the product quality was high and the pricing was right. Talking about the segments, when we talk about the electric vehicles, Mahindra was one of the most oldest company to launch an electric vehicle in the country, that is known by the name of Bijli. Bijli was an instant hit on the roads of Delhi, where they are used in the Connaught Place as a park and ride service for the commuters. In 2001, Riva, a two-seater electric car for Indian road, was also launched in India, and Mahindra acquired a 55% stake in Riva electric vehicle in 2010. It had sold around 5,000 cars by then. Now, the very first launch from the new company, Mahindra Riva, was the Mahindra E20. The Indian market took a while to warm up to electric vehicles. Revenues were growing slow, and it took a push from the Indian government to get it going. Then came the Mahindra has joined hands with the parts of Formula E and carried out their legacy with the E-Verito and subsequently launching a very luxurious model known by the name of Battista in 2019. Now I will ask my friend to give some insights about the Tata Motors.
Thank you, Sudhanshu. Now we will be talking about the corporate strategy of Tata Motors. The Tata Motors was making a loss of $108.6 million alone in the commercial vehicle business unit in 2001 due to the market shrinkage and entry of new players. So it enhanced itself and worked on the different types of strategy. One of them was focus on new product development. For this, Tata Motors started leveraging modular approach, state of art architecture, both in consumer vehicle and passenger vehicle, while developing a newer products and variants to enhance the range of choices of its expanding consumer base. The company also introduced contemporary and value-added features over it to increase the consumer base. It also actively work on alternative propulsion systems, including zero emission technology, especially in EVs for certain applications. Now, coming on the strategy two was expanding international business. The focus of this strategy was to identify new international markets based on demographic and socio-economic features of specific region. Now, the company enhances volume from non-SARC market driven by growth in Asian, African, and Middle East. To expand global market footprints, further, Tata Motors focus on four key areas, which were developing suitable products, driving optimal sourcing, manufacturing, and enhancing overall customer experience. The Tata's JLR, that is Jaguar Land Rover, also started manufacturing its footprint and expanding in Slovakia market. Now, coming on the strategy three, organization efficiency and cost management. To critically review and right size the cost structure to deliver best in class products and competitive price to maximize the returns on continual basis. Now, Tata Motors now is continuing and focusing on identifying areas of resource optimization, reducing input cost, and initiatives such as margin improvement projects have also started over there. In fiscal year 19, they strengthened overall financials, and Jaguar Land Rover Slovakia plant provided an opportunity to the company for a relatively low cost manufacturing location compared to the UK, thus providing opportunity for growth and thus reducing the cost. Now my friend will take over from here.
Yeah, so moving ahead towards the tech disruptions in the automotive industry, as rightly pointed by the CEO of General Motors, the auto industry is poised for more change in the next 5 to 10 years than it is seen in the past 50. So there are a lot of tech disruptions in the automotive industry, and we have tried to cluster them into the four major groups. First is the diverse mobility or shared mobility. There are various reports which suggest that by 2030, it is expected that 1 out of 10 vehicles sold will be a shared vehicle. Also, there is an expectation in the rise of fit for purpose vehicles, considering the environmental concern. Secondly, moving towards the autonomous driving, definitely as of now, there are tech and regulatory issues, but when these things are being resolved, it is expected that again by 2030, 15% of all the new vehicles sold will be fully autonomous. Moving forward towards the electrification of vehicles. So electrification, as we all know, is becoming more and more competitive and vibrant. But yeah, the speed of its adoption is as of now low, but it is expected to pick up the pace. Finally, towards the connectivity, we have tried and delved deeper into this connectivity part because it is very important when it comes to automotive sector. So here we identified tethered and embedded, especially embedded, how it started in 2000 with the smartphone based and how it evolved into the touch screen, and then in 2018 like the Internet of Things and head-up display. Now the Apple and Google are coming with head-up display. So those things, and also we are seeing the augmented reality and virtual reality coming into this space. So yeah, that was the brief description. I request my friend to carry it forward.
Now let's talk about the technology that will come because of this disruption. So it is basically categorized into three. So very first is customer-based non-mobility, and that first driver drowsiness detection using eyeball tracking and other health indicators to make sure driver is focused on driving task and intervene with alerts in case the driver is distracted. Second, in-car delivery, car is able to interact with smart fridge, identify what items to be ordered, automate ordering from an e-commerce platform, and allows the delivery person to access the boot with a digital key. Next, email access and calendar location integration with satellite navigation in cars, ability to send to professional email in the car, allowing the driver to read and reply to emails using voice. Then car sharing fleet. Different users are identified using biometric signatures, for example, fingerprint scanning, and gain access to the vehicles for the period of their blocking. Next is customer-based mobility. In it, the first is gamification. So corporate fleet is able to track the driving behavior of their employees and create a community to rank drivers on their driving scores. Next is providing voucher. Driver routed to their preferred petrol station with their preferred coffee brand. So it helps in that. Next is fuel payment. Vehicle routed to fuel station, petrol pump, identify based on QR code recorded by vehicles, and payment is automatically made. The next class is vehicle-based service. In it, the very first is predictive maintenance. So providing customers with advance notice of a replacement or repair based on connected with vehicle data. Next is fleet management system. So managing and servicing assets based on when it is required. Then is improvement in next generation design. So helping OEMs design future platforms based on data collected from vehicles in the park. Next slide. So here are the key perspective on the 2030 automotive revolution that is to be taken place. So in it, the very first is shifting market and revenue pools. So driven by shared mobility, connectivity services, and feature upgrades, new business model could expand automotive revenue pools by 30%, adding to US dollar 1.5 trillion. Despite a shift towards shared mobility, vehicle unit share sales will continue to grow, but likely at a lower rate of 2% per annum. Next is change in mobility behavior. So the consumer mobility behavior is changing, leading to up to 1 of 10 cars sold in 2030 potentially being shared vehicle, and the subsequent rise of a market for fit for purpose mobility solution. Next is diffusion of advanced technology. So one technological and regulatory issue have been resolved. Up to 15% of new cars sold in 2030 could be fully autonomous. Electrified vehicles are becoming viable and competitive. However, the speed of their adoption will vary strongly at the local level. Next, with new competition and cooperation. Within a more complex and diversified mobility industry landscape, incumbent players will be forced to simultaneously compete on multiple fronts and cooperate with competitors. New market entrants are expected to initially target only specific economically attractive segments and activities along the value chain before potentially exploring further fields. Thank you.